one's joined yet. Assalamu alaikum. This is Naaila Clay, and this is Ask the Counselor. So today, I've got a few questions that have already come in, and I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to pull them up and I'm going to read from them. Now, if any of you have questions, please go ahead, and I'm going to try to get to those during this short amount of time that we have together. Assalamu alaikum, Nicola. It's good to see you. I know you're so far away. So, and hey, everyone, let me know where you are in the comments, okay? Because I'm in Atlanta, Georgia right now, and I want to see where our people are during this session. Okay, so one of the questions is, Assalamu alaikum, could you give me some practical advice on what to do with a stubborn husband? Oh, I love hearts. Keep them coming. I am unable to talk to him as he does not listen to what I say. What he wants has to always happen. I read many articles about improving communication in a marriage, but nothing seems to work. You know, I've been doing marriage counseling for a really long time, and really has nothing to do with gender, but you know, we all come to a marriage with personality traits. And so this is something that I've seen before. And so one of the key things that I would suggest that you do in regard to communication, is never negate how you feel. Always. You always get to feel how it is that you feel. But I want you to separate how you feel. Oh, you love me? Assalamu alaikum. Thank you so much. Love you also. I'm glad that you follow us. And so I want you to separate how you feel and what you want him to do. Now, how do you do that? It may require you to take a moment before you go to him so you can manage your emotions, because very often when we speak to our husbands, or anyone for that matter, we speak from a point of conveying how it is that we feel. But I want you to focus in on what it is that you want him to do. That may be where you're losing him. I don't have a lot of information, but I do know this. I do know there are just some ways that men think. And you have to speak to him in a way where you're more likely to motivate him to respond to you, if that makes sense. So let him know what it is that you want him to do, because you said he doesn't listen to me. He does hear you. You haven't said that, you know, he's hard of hearing. He does hear you, but for whatever reason, he's not acting on what it is that you're saying. So let him know exactly what it is what that you want him to do. And you said, well, what he wants, that's what always has to happen. Maybe if you're clear about what it is that you would like. Again, this comes from separating your emotion from what it is that you want him to do. And be really clear about that. The last tip that I have for you in order to make this happen is I may suggest maybe even really thinking about it before you go to him. With men, there are a couple of things we always say, and because you said you've read some things about improving communication in marriage, one of the things that I can tell you is always important when you're communicating with your husband is timing. Timing is so important. So separate your emotion, take a moment to get your own self together. Know exactly what it is that you would like to be able to see happen. And lastly, approach him at a time where he is best able to hear. Sometimes, you know, we think that, oh, he's relaxed right now. He's sitting down. He's quiet. Maybe he's eating dinner. His belly's full. It may seem like a really good time. But you know what? Sometimes those are not the best times. Because he is relaxed, because he is in a good space, and because you are now asking him to mentally go somewhere else. So that may not be a good time. What would be a good time? I'm going to say this. I believe you know your husband, and you probably are able to figure that out. All right? Keep the hearts coming. You're thinking, sister, I see. You said, Tell me what it is that you think about that. All right, I'm going to go on to the next one. Okay, I see people are joining in. Let us know where you are in the comments. I recently got engaged. I have never seen or met the guy. I agreed to the marriage under family pressure. I cannot say no, even if I know Islamically I have the right. I just cannot stand for it. My family is worried because I am considered old in my society. They want to marry me off as soon as possible. Please help. I'm scared of this marriage. You know, I love this one because it has so many components within it. And I'm going to talk about the first one. And that is family pressure. We always talk about peer pressure. We talk about things from the stressors from life as being a pressure. We talk about bullying as a pressure. But one of the things that we don't talk about much, you're in the, yes, from the UK, live in Egypt. Yay. One of the things that we don't talk about is family pressure. For one of the reasons for that is, you know, no one really likes to talk about family. I think that's a beautiful thing, to be respectful, not to want to say anything negative about your family. But we've got to be very honest about the things. Oh, I need to get my own show. We've got one going right now, Tammy. You've got to join in. But family pressure is real. The next thing is something I always say: roots run deep. Cultural roots, where we come from, they run very deep. And so it definitely sounds like there's some cultural things that are going on in this scenario. And so what do you do when you've got family pressure, you have cultural issues, and now you have an issue where I'm about to be married to someone that I don't know. I don't even really like you. What do you do? Now, this is part of the problem. In your message, you've removed a lot of your options. You said you agreed. You said you can't say no. And then you say you can't stand for it. And so you've kind of boxed yourself in. And you're saying all the things that you can't do. I can't say no, but I don't like it, and I've succumbed to family pressure. You know, the one person who has the most power here, and I realize that you definitely feel powerless, but the one person here who has the power to assist you is you. Now, I would recommend that perhaps you can go to an imam if you have an elder within your family who may be able to speak on your behalf, but I would highly recommend, sister, that you find your voice. Because if you don't find it before marriage, you are not going to find it within your marriage either. And if you are at the point where people consider you old, an old maid, which, you know, I think is a beautiful term. It means that you're definitely a woman with some wisdom on her. I'm going to take that. Salam alaikum, Hakeem. I'm going to take that perspective on it. Then that means that you actually do have some insight about yourself and what it is that you would like to do in this situation. And it will be up to you to be able to use it. You are really your best advocate. This is going to be about what it is that you're willing to do for yourself. It's going to be scary. It is so hard to go against family pressure, not negating that at all. But this will require you stepping out and speaking out for yourself, or finding someone who's going to be willing to do so for you. Otherwise, you know, that box that I was talking about, you put yourself in, I can't do this, I can't do this, I can't do this. It's going to get smaller as time goes on. You're going to feel like there are so many other things that you're not going to be able to do as you develop into a woman. All right, I've got another question. Oh, Assalamu alaikum. You're so welcome. If you have questions, let me know. Submit them in the comments. But I think that was such a good one, because we do have so many issues with our families, and we don't talk about it, and we're considered rude. You're considered disrespectful if you say anything. But you also have to be mindful that we're adults. And it's so hard to make the transition into being an adult child, because sometimes parents don't make the transition with you. They try to parent a 26-year-old son or daughter the same way that they did a 16-year-old, and you can't. You're an adult. And so sometimes this is going to be about you making that switch, making that transition. And inshallah, your parents, they'll come with you. All right, so I've got another question here. Okay, Assalamu alaikum. Please help me improve our marital life. The problem is that my husband wants to have intercourse much more than I do. Actually, I hardly have the feeling I want to have intercourse with him. I prefer hugs and kisses, but not more. Although he tries to put me in the mood, many times it just does not help. I am afraid there's something wrong with me. Am I asexual? I'm also afraid he would marry another woman because of this, and I feel terrible. Okay, this is a hard one. It's a sensitive one because it does deal with intimacy. And sometimes we do have, times in our life when our desires, our sexual desires fluctuate. I don't know what the cause of it may be. I don't know if it's something physical. First, I would recommend that you find out about that. Is this a physical issue that you have going on? Secondly, are you taking any medications that would reduce your sex drive? That's something else for you to think about. Okay? The other thing is, you said, I hardly have the feeling. That sounds like a marriage issue to me. For what reason have you lost the desire to connect with him intimately? And so, intimacy, sexual intimacy, it begins outside of the bedroom. And we bring the things outside of the bedroom, we bring them into the bedroom, which is a very, very sacred and intimate place. This is a beautiful place for a husband and a wife to be able to experience one another. But we set up the stage for it before it ever begins. So I want you to think about, what is it that's going on in your marriage that may be contributing to this feeling that you have of, don't touch me? What is it? What is it that you might have going on? Is there something wrong with you? Not at all. Nothing wrong with you. I want you to think about this, sister. We know in Islam that Iman, it wears thin like clothing. It goes up and down. And all of our relationships do that. If our Iman, which is one of our greatest connections with Allah, if it fluctuates, if it wears thin at time, know that there are times when your relationships will wear thin and be stronger at time. Where your relationships will feel renewed. They'll feel new, like brand new clothes. And then there'll be times when they feel worn. It's like, you know what? I need a new pair. Okay, so just be mindful that relationships do that. They do go up and down. They do fluctuate. Sometimes we don't feel the love. It doesn't. I love you. I love you, fi sabilillah. I love you, and I'm here in the marriage due to the commitment that we've made for Allah. But I may not feel that intimate, warm, fuzzy love. And sometimes it does fade, and you stay in the marriage due to your commitment that you've made to your marriage for the sake of Allah. You stay in the marriage, inshallah, until it does return. But there's nothing wrong with you at all. You also said you were fearful that he could marry he would take another wife because of this. Polygyny is such a taboo issue within the Muslim community, and it's a huge issue within the Muslim community. And I would say to you sisters that, the same way that Allah has blessed your husband with you, he will not get another wife unless it is decreed by Allah. And if you walk around with this fear, you're not going to enjoy the benefit and the good that you have with your husband now. sometimes, the whispers from the shaitan, they get us and they plant all kinds of seeds and thoughts into our heads. And so this fear, it'll get us to the point where we are stuck. There are two very strong emotions that can take a person way left: love and fear. Thank you. Keep those hearts coming. Love and fear can just take you so far to the left. And if you act on this fear, it will make it even more difficult for this love that you want to have to come. And that love feeling that you want, that's what takes you to the desire to have intimacy with your husband. I understand your fear is natural, totally understandable. But if you allow it to live like that, you will function from that place and you will stay there, and that won't be good for you or for your husband. All right, I've got one more. I really like a Christian girl. We have a harmonic relationship. Some days ago, I decided to ask her if she would marry me. She said she didn't mind that I was Muslim, but her parents wouldn't allow her to be in a relationship with the Muslim. What do you think? What should I do? This goes back to the one earlier about the young lady who's dealing with the family pressure. We cannot negate family pressure. We cannot negate culture. And while we all get to choose who it is that we marry, if you marry someone outside of your faith and you know the climate within your family unit, you know what their standard is, and you decide to go against that because you're an adult and you can. Oh, you're in Florida. You're right next to me in Georgia. And you decide to go against that. You also make the decision to be able to handle and address whatever outcomes may come, because you don't get to decide how the other people are going to respond. Now, I'm not suggesting at all that will be your motivation, because what it means that if you do, you will always succumb to family pressure. And you don't get to be you. You don't get to follow your heart and love who it is that you like. But it says here, I'm reading the question. Her parents won't allow her to be in a relationship with the Muslim. I want you to really think about that. If you decide to go into this relationship, you very likely will not have total family support. And is that something that you want? And you say you have a harmonic relationship. Something I tell the couples that I work with is that harmonic relationship that you have, you really can't have that within the marriage. You want to create that. But do know that the interaction that you have before marriage, it changes in a marriage. It's supposed to. You're married. It's a totally different relationship. And so marriages are not always harmonic. And one or the two of you, what are you bringing to the marriage that will allow you to be able to get through when times are not so harmonious? Okay, I saw a question from someone, and so I don't want to miss it. I'm going to go back and okay, you said, what is your advice to a woman who continues? Okay, I'm not sure. I don't see anything else with that question. So I'm not sure what it is that you're asking. If you could elaborate a little bit more for me so I can know exactly what it is that you mean, and I'll try to be able to respond during this short amount of time that we have together. Okay. And so I don't know if you are typing, but again, as I said, I am not sure what that question is in reference to. Okay, all right. I got the full question now. What is your advice to a woman who continues wearing hijab, even though she is terrified for her safety in America these days, but keeps wearing it because her husband said he would divorce her if she took it off? What about intentions, such as her intentions for wearing it only to please her husband, knowing Allah has given her an excuse because she is unsafe? Mashallah. What is my advice? Okay, that's the key question. You've asked my advice. You know, at this world, and I live here in America, and so I do know the cultural climate that is going on in this country. But we've been told that this dunya, this world, is a jail, it's a prison for the believer. And so there are many times when we do things and we make sacrifices as Muslims that cause us to feel like we're locked in, that cause us to feel like we lose our options. And so when you say I'm terrified for my safety here in America, I'm going to say, sister, fear nothing more than you fear Allah. There is nothing that can happen to you that will not happen unless it is by the decree and the will of Allah. And to walk around with the fear of what can happen to you in America that is greater than your fear than Allah is surely questionable. Now, I definitely understand wanting to protect yourself, wanting to be safe. And I would say to you, what other methods could you use? What could you make sure that you travel with the mahram? Could you make sure that you travel in groups? Could you ensure that, okay, I can do everything that I need to do, during the daytime, and try not to be out at night when it's even more risky? What are the things, what are the precautions that you could take to ensure your safety? Because I won't tell you that I haven't had these same concerns, because I do. I do have these same concerns. I've taken a self-defense class. I do have something that I can use to just give me a few moments so that I can get myself to safety if something were to happen to me. These are all the precautions that I've taken before I make the decision to take this off, because I do this fi sabilillah. And you said, what about your intentions to wear it only to please your husband? I totally get it. Totally understand that you want to do it for the sake of Allah and not just for the sake of your husband. But I'm going to say this, and everyone may not agree with me, but if you do something good with a good intention, and it's not against Islam, but you do it for the good intention of, I'm going to do this because it pleases my husband. We do things for our children all the time that we don't necessarily even want to do, but we do it for our children. If you do it for the sake of someone that you love, that is a good intention. And inshallah, and we know that Allah is the turner of hearts. Inshallah, Allah will turn your heart. Well, it will become for the sake of Allah and for the sake of your husband. But I would never tell you doing something that is mandated by Allah and doing it to please your husband is a bad thing. I'm not going to tell you that. Because it is. And you say Allah gives us the excuse because you feel unsafe. I think this is going to be an issue where you and I may disagree. I don't know of an excuse to take off your hijab. Again, this is a personal issue where all of us make the decision about how you're going to personally cover. But Islamically, this may be something where you say, there's no excuse to take it off, because we do this because we want to follow the requirements of the religion. Do you do online counseling? Yes, I do. Yes, I do, Tammy. You can go and you can find me on my, you can find me if you look for me online. But yes, I do online counseling. If you're here, you may have seen me give a shout about this live on my Facebook page. And so you can see my other Facebook live videos there as well. Okay, so I believe that's all the questions we've got for today. And guess what? We are out of time. It went really fast, didn't it? It's only 30 minutes. And so we've gotten a few in. I've enjoyed you all, and I look forward to seeing you next time. We're going to do this again. So I want you to think about the questions that you might have. And so you can go ahead and you can send them in so that we can be prepared here at About Islam so we can get them all in, inshallah. Assalamu alaikum.